Hi, and welcome tonight, guys, to Any Mum Can podcast and live. I have a really lovely guest with me tonight, Lisa Billingham, and I really love the things that Lisa talks about. She is a self-published author. She's a fun-loving, caring individual with a really wide range of life experiences. And yes, we shared many as we had a conversation pre this meeting, and unbelievably have an amazing number of parallels between us. Yeah. So as I said, she's a self-published author, an intuitive reader and well-being coach, a crystal therapist and public speaker. She was diagnosed with stress and anxiety and depression in 2011 and struggled to find her way through without prescription medication. And this is really where her journey began. This is why she wants to come and talk today about various things and how some of these things that she's found has helped people increase their self-worth and heal themselves. So her personal growth work has carries out has helped her recover, and is the way that she's been able to help others too. So thank you for being with us this evening, Lisa. I'm really, really looking forward to the stuff you're going to share with us and talk about writing, because I'm very passionate about writing. I love writing. I do all my lists or my calendar by writing. So just love the art of pen to paper. My husband just keeps saying to me, please, why don't you just use Google Calendar for everything? I'm like, yeah, because do you know, it's just too logical to do that. And I love the art of writing. I love being able to write my thoughts. I like to write what I'm doing, and I feel like it's a dying art. So I'm really looking forward to the things you're going to share with us this evening. So welcome, Lisa. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into all those great things.
Thank you very much for having me, Versha. It's lovely to be here. Yes, it's an interesting concept, actually, because it wasn't until I was ill, until I was diagnosed with mental health issues, that I actually started writing, strangely enough. And I do believe, and I agree, we have lost the art of writing because we're so used to typing, or we're on our phones and it's our thumbs, and putting pen to paper, and I actually use a pencil, actually. It's just virtually unheard of, yet it's so therapeutic. Just putting that pen to paper is so therapeutic. And as daft as it sounds, writing lists is an ideal way to start, even if it's a shopping list, because it gets your thoughts in order. You're not thinking, oh, have I forgotten something? Or, oh, should I have got that? Should I have got more milk? I need bread? If it's on a list, you need to get it. So it's even back to basics like that, which is great, because I think when I first started writing my book, I hadn't written anything for probably about 8 or 9 years, because it was back in 2011 I started journaling, and didn't do anything with it. I literally just wrote to get rid of all the past and all the things that were bubbling up inside me and the things that I couldn't let go of. That was the reason that I started journaling. And it was my counsellor who said to me, why don't you try writing it down? And I laughed at her. I was like, well, what's the point? We all type, and what's that going to do for me? And she just said, just go away and try it. And I did. And I found that I was literally just writing, and I couldn't read it. I couldn't have turned it into anything because I couldn't read it. And I just thought, well, what's the point in this? And as over a period of time, it started to make sense, because I thought, oh, I haven't thought about that for a while. And it's very rare I actually went back over it. It is quite nice to reflect sometimes, because you think, oh, look how far I've come for a start off. But at the time, I actually didn't. I didn't look at it anymore. I just thought, what does that say? What does that? And I've got books here. I've got loads of them. I've got journals. That's writing my book in that one. That's my notes for work and everything. I've got another one here as well. And they're everywhere. Books everywhere. Notebooks everywhere. And I'm like, I need a new notebook. So I've got one for everything. But shopping lists are on another one, and you just think, oh my life. But I've got a book for everything, to be honest. But some of it, I've started journaling again recently. I haven't done it for a while, and people think it's negative. I do it on my course, and I do it for myself for healing. That's the sole purpose for me, was for the healing process of it in the beginning. And I didn't keep any of it. I didn't need any of it at the time. And then I thought, oh, you should have done, because you've written the book and stuff. But at the time, I didn't care that I couldn't read it. I just had to write it just to get it out. And some of it was repeated so many times until the point where I actually let go.
Yeah.
And now I'm writing because, yes, some days I still have bad days. We all do as we go through life. Life throws that brown stuff at us and we think, ah. And I've started journaling again. But it doesn't have to be from a negative experience. It can be from a positive experience. It can be from a good day or from a celebration or, anything. Sometimes it's even going back to real basics, and even to the point of, I made it through today.
Really powerful, right? Because it's good. Yeah, because some people are really in that place, right? Yeah. But, I remember I've read, and I can't remember the author. It was really good, actually. Very simple, but journaling to just do gratitude and actually journal a gratitude book, or you can journal and send your gratitude to somebody else, so you've got an accountability. And not everybody wants to handwrite, and I love journaling personally, or writing, but some people still find that it's easier to type, right? Because some people do, which is whatever floats your boat. Because actually my thoughts really flow either way. Previously I used to have a fixed belief that my thoughts only flow if I handwrite. But what I did discover is if I had the right kind of music and ambience, and because my typing has got faster, it was only because when I was younger I couldn't type as quick, but actually now my typing can actually go at the same flow of my thoughts, which never thought I'd ever arrive at.
Go, girl.
I remember in my 20s thinking, this is never going to happen. I am a one-finger girl. But in time, these things evolve and adapt. And so either way, and I did that for some time. I did it nearly best part of 10, 11 months. I had an accountability partner where we just sent a gratitude note every day to each other. And it fell off because I actually just wanted to go back to handwriting. Was just my preference, or doing it in a meditation. It really is dependent. But the good thing about writing, as I'm sure you'll agree, is that the fact that you can go back and read it, because you can't go back to your thoughts.
No.
You can't remember half the things you've been thinking because something else takes over, right? Yeah,
absolutely. I do use it more for that now than I did when I previously did it. And it's an individual thing, isn't it? When I'm writing my books, I handwrite first, and then I almost look at the typing part of it as a first edit. So everybody's different in that some people would prefer to type and some people would prefer to write. And let's face it, some people, they might not have the dexterity, especially, as you get older, or if you've got arthritis or anything. So it could be easier for you to type than it is to write. Sometimes I'll write for so long and I have cramp in my hands. Now I'm getting used to it. When I first started to physically write last March, I was like this. And I'm like, what's wrong with my hands? Because I hadn't done it for so long. It's just like, this is crazy. But the art of writing, and like you say, it is a personal preference. Some people will type and some people will write, and it's more about it's getting those thoughts out there onto that paper to do whatever you want with it. I mean, when I first did it, I thought, well, I'm writing all this stuff, and I got books and books of it. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with it? And because I was sitting there and I'd sometimes look back and I'd read it, and then I'd sometimes think, well, that's still bothering me. And I'd write again and again and again. And I got to the point where I was sick of reading the same thing, and I just started ripping the books up, because I'd put them in all like, notebooks like this, and I'd put them in those books, and I'm like just literally ripping the ring binders out and then destroying the ring bit. And then and I thought, what am I going to do with this? Because I don't particularly want anybody to read it. I have written a letter to somebody and posted it. I don't recommend that, by the way, especially if you want to speak to them again. It wasn't a nice letter. Never mentioned. It was never mentioned. And I'm like, I wonder if he actually read that letter, and I'm probably never going to know. But it was. And looking back now, thinking, you should not have posted it. And my friend went, I told you to write it, but I didn't tell you to post it. I was like, well, you didn't tell me that bit, so what was I supposed to do? So I posted. So don't do that. But when
tell us, Lisa, though, by writing, what release did it give you? In your early part of your healing journey, and how can women actually, how can our listeners take some real benefit from it? Because some people just think it's just another thing to do. We talk about lots of tools and things on our podcast and on this live, and it's really thinking what really is going to work for them. Why would they do this? Why should I invest time doing it?
It's I'm not going to be able to say this, the cathartic side of it. And it's always about, most importantly, is making that time for yourself. It doesn't matter what you do in that time. If you choose to write, or if you choose to meditate, you choose to sing, you choose to dance, listen to music, whatever it is, it's about taking that time, because we're all busy, even with lockdowns, thrown everybody's life up in the air and done all sorts of things with it. We're all in a different situation to what we were 12 months ago, and none of us had ever considered that anything like this would happen in our lifetimes, no matter what age you are. And you think, okay, so this is a bit bizarre, but it's about, nobody's been able to go on holiday, and we've constantly, if we've been able to work, we've constantly been working through, and we've not had a break. And it's about taking that time out, and it doesn't matter, even if it's only 10 minutes, to do something different. Go for a walk, realign yourself, do a meditation like you mentioned before, or writing. And it's just literally getting those thoughts out, because if they're whizzing around your head and you think, I can't think straight with this issue, whatever it is, writing it down will often help you to sort your thoughts out, put it into some kind of perspective as well. And then you can look at it again and go, oh, well, actually, what was I worrying about? Or you can look at it and think, oh, actually, I do need to do something about that. And then you can take it one step further, and you can start planning what you're going to do, or you can let it go, whichever you need to do. And when I was journaling previously, I did a ritual, and I actually burnt all mine. And I just said, just let it go, send it away, take it up into the universe, do what you need to do with it. I don't need it anymore. And that was my ritual for a good number of years, to be honest. And literally everything that I wrote, I just burnt. I don't
It's really powerful. My mum,
I
couldn't believe my mum also gave this advice. She didn't give it to me, actually. She gave it to another member of our family who she told me that, oh, your mum gave me this advice, that when she was really feeling troubled, that my mum gave her the advice to just write it all out, get it out as fast as you can, and just dump it, burn it, and it's done. Release it, let it go. Don't need to burden anybody with it. I'm not burdening anyway, but sometimes there are certain things we don't want to talk about. We don't want to say out loud for whatever reason. There are so many things attached to saying certain things: judgment, shame, embarrassment, and you shouldn't. Ideally, we don't want to feel like that, but the fact is, a lot of us do, and we're all human, and we all fear judgment. Doesn't matter who you are on this planet. I don't believe there is one person here on this planet that does not fear judgment. because that's what keeps us in order. That's what, you know, all the last 12 months, 16 months, even to do with the pandemic, you know, the fear of judgment. Oh, we better not break the rules. We better not do this, because we want to adhere. We want to keep harmony and not be judged by people. And it, you know, dare I say those things? But it is really, really true.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. Yeah,
and it's so great to hear that you have practiced the same thing.
Yeah. I told you when we first met, we're twins.
I know, so funny, isn't it?
So bizarre.
Wow, that's my mum, and it's just really ingrained. But like, did you find that really effective? Did it really work for you?
Yeah, several times over and over. I kept repeating the same patterns, and I kept repeating the same things, and I found that writing, it doesn't matter how many times I have to write it. I always look at it like peeling an onion. Whichever therapy I'm doing, I'm crystal therapist as well, coaching. You can't do everything overnight. You're not gonna suddenly change your thought processes from negative to positive like that. It takes time, as with everything. You know, you're on a journey, you're learning all the time, and you can see the patterns in yourself. And it's when you start writing them down that those patterns become obvious, that you could, you know, you've got it in front of you. You're keeping a journal, you're keeping a diary, you're keeping a, you know, emotions diary that I use in my courses. And then you look back and you go, well, actually, that happened then, and that happened then, and that happened then. So that's what I need to sort out. And then you can start working on the root cause. You can look at different therapies. You can look at getting support to get to the bottom of it, to think, well, why am I actually repeating these again? So once I'd actually broken the patterns and learned and said, you know what, no, I'm not going back there again. You're out my life. Forget it. I've moved on. I'm not interested. And they'd come back and I'd go, no. And sometimes I'd take them back, and then it'd be writing it all over again. And I think until you learn that lesson, or for me personally, until I learned that lesson, it was very much, well, I'm going to show you again then. And I'm going to do it to you again until you learn the lesson. And writing it and releasing it was just slowly peeling away those layers and layers of that onion until you get to the point where you go, thank you, goodbye, that's it. And you can talk. And I think the point with a lot of people is when you get to the point where you can talk about it without being upset or without being affected by it or without being angry or, you know, almost feeling no emotion for it at all, is the point where you know that you've healed that particular circumstance or situation or relationship or feeling or whatever it is. When you get to that point, you know you've healed it. And I think that's quite powerful, because you sit back and you look back and you think, wow, look how far I've come with that. And I made it, and I did it, and I got through it. And that's when you start to move to the positive, and you either move away from pain or towards pleasure, as you know. And then you start to move, you know, you start to move then towards the positives, and you start to move towards the pleasure. And that's when you see a shift, a massive shift, I think, in your life and in your journey and your circumstances. That's certainly what happened to me. Definitely.
Yeah. So how if somebody doesn't feel like they've got really very much, you know, that's troubling them in their life, they may just have, you know, a very overwhelmed life, a very high pressured life where, you know, you're dashing between work and managing life, looking after children, wanting to give your children your best of your time, and then you want to look after your health. How can journaling really help a person that may not feel they've got a trauma or something to heal?
It's a good point, actually, because a lot of people I actually did some work in a school the other day, and I was amazed by, there was a few of the kids that were like, I asked them to journal, write positive, write negative, breathing exercise, write positive. And they're like, Miss, can we please write all positive? And I'm like, yes, please do. Yes, please. I was so excited. And And I sat there and I thought, that's a good point, because not everybody will suffer mental health traumas. Not everybody will have things that particularly bother them because their mental health is fine. They don't, they look at the world differently. But it can still help because they're still busy people. And very often there could be something that's like hidden, a little bit hidden. And it comes back to that, just taking time for yourself, because if you're busy, you're trying to juggle a family, you're trying to juggle work, you've got pressures with your partner or whatever it is, you're running around 10 to the dozen. Just sit and write about your day, how good it was. It doesn't always have to be bad. So how good was it? What was the best part of it? And above all, what were you grateful for?
Yeah, the grateful bit is the power,
gratitude,
isn't it?
massive,
the gratitude and the vibration it brings back into your life and those around you. It's it is. And that's what I was going to kind of say. Yeah, like even if it's there, it's an art you can work and develop, and and when we do have a bad day, it's just something that we've already then adapted and created a skill set for, or a habit for.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And how does it help with increasing our self-worth? Where's the leap there?
It's almost that practice makes perfect, because when you start to see your patterns, it's looking for your patterns in what you're accepting, what boundaries you've set or not set, that may be knocking your confidence, knocking your self-esteem. Your self-worth is through the floor. And it's finding those. Now, sometimes they're obvious. Sometimes you'll be writing and you'll keep a diary for, say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. And you'll see, what happens at a particular time when you eat loads of chocolate, or what happens at a particular time when you smoke more cigarettes or you drink more alcohol or whatever it is. And you can actually trace it back. And sometimes it's quite easy to pinpoint it and go, oh, that's what's going on. So then you need to either have a conversation with somebody else, with yourself. You need to ask for help with that particular instance, whatever it is. And as you start to do that and you start to work through these things, whether that be on your own or with partner or with family or whatever, you'll start to see your confidence increasing and your self-worth and your self-esteem, and almost in one fell swoop, it will start to come back again, because it's all, obviously, as you know, it's all intertwined. So as you start building on one thing and you start realizing what it is and you start to make the positive changes, you start to set the good habits, even if that's one less glass of wine after dinner or whatever it is. Once you start to do that and you start to form a new habit, then you'll start to feel that your self-esteem and your self-worth and your self-confidence will start to rise slowly. Before you know it, you're like, oh, well, what was I worried about? What was that all about? But it should be an enjoyable process. It's hard when you're doing the releasing part of it. But if you can get to a point where your journal is more positive than it is negative, then you're just constantly building on that, and your self-esteem is just coming up and up and up and up and up until it's, just keep going.
Yeah, well, it's like stacking your beliefs, isn't it, as well? Like stacking the things that are great about that you've done in your life or your day, or and really, really being in celebration of the great things we've done, because a lot of women and women are not the only ones that do this. Men do it too. That we aim for one mountain, and as soon as we get there, we just start planning before we even get to the top. We can see that it's pretty much secure. We're going to be at the top of that mountain. We're going to reach it, no problem. Plan the next one. Yeah. There's very little celebration. They're like, yeah, brilliant, we've done it. Let's go. Next one. And it is a common thing that a lot of people are talking about this. And maybe like it might be in my circle, because a lot of us do talk about this, but I don't know if it's widely spoken about, where other people outside of my immediate circle have this awareness that we don't celebrate. We don't celebrate even the small nuances and small achievements. And the little wins are the things that make life. And the whole journey of reaching a goal is actually the most phenomenal thing, not actually achieving it. I mean, the process is achieving it, not the achievement in the end. You know, it's actually why and journaling can be part of that, of appreciation of the steps you've taken, the discipline you've put in your life, the self-love practice, the hard conversations you might have had, the challenge you've got through to achieve something. It really is a very powerful thing. And whether if you do that in journaling or whether you do that in another method, that's fine. But journaling, again, at least you can go back and you can read how much you've been able to do. And so when you do feel on your low days, you've got actually something to reference, right? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, definitely. I actually don't, you know. It's funny you should say it, because I've only recently started, because I stopped journaling for quite a while, and I only ever journaled in the past for the bad stuff. I never did the good stuff, and then recently started to journal the good stuff. And I do look back over and I think, oh yeah, I remember that day that happened. We did that, or I did that, or whatever. And I think it's so important, and never more than when we were in lockdown. And I know we're not quite through it yet, but we're not far off from what, you know, the news is saying. But I was talking to somebody about it today as well, and he's like, wow, you should be so proud, what an achievement, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah. And I did exactly what you said. I wrote the first book, I wrote the end, and then I went, what next? And I started moving on to something else. And because we were in lockdown at the time, I would normally have maybe gone out for a meal or met up with friends or, you know, whatever. We did none of it. It was literally, oh, okay, so you finished that and published it on the Saturday or whatever day it was. I can't remember what day it was now, what day of the week it was. And then the next day you move on and you do, right, okay, next book or course or whatever. And you forget, and we all do it, we all forget to celebrate the big wins and the little wins. And a little win for somebody who's tearing their hair out with the kids, or who's, you know, trying to juggle everything and all the plates up in the air, is sometimes it's just the fact that they've got into bed and they've actually made it through that day, because it's been a tough day. You did it. Even those, you know, we need to celebrate, and we just don't. We're so used to, I think, not living in the moment. I think it probably comes back to not living in the moment. We're always thinking about the future, or worrying about what we did that day or yesterday, or who we've upset, or, you know, whatever we've done, that we actually don't stop and go, well, actually, that was a really good day. I had a really lovely chat with Versha. I had a really lovely chat this morning. I've done X, Y, and Z, and I've achieved that, and I've crossed that off my list. And, you know, and we just don't do it.
No, we seem to be a real society that focuses into what didn't work today, what I'm going to bed with regret, or, you know, a big part of my life I really did go to bed with regret a lot, thinking, God, I started the day, I wanted the day to go like this, and by the end of the day, I just feel like, really low worth. Like, why couldn't I have done that? Why did I not follow through? Or why couldn't I hold it all together and really beat myself up for these small things? And nobody'd know that, because on the exterior, I'm very, you know, loud and a person that just speaks her mind, but no different to anybody else. There is, you know, we have these ingrained ways that are almost the way we're taught to just always seek perfection. Right? And never really accept good is good enough, and we're work in progress, and it's a journey. This thing that I'm trying to do, which holding it all together and not quite feeling like I can, my thing was actually not feeling under pressure while I was parenting, and the whole like work and pet children and food, all the many things, running to clubs, pre-COVID. And managing it all with that and being cool all through the whole thing without really feeling like I was going to fall apart. And I probably set a massive goal for myself that I can, set the intention in the morning, and by the evening, every day, I would have nailed it, and it should be better. Like each day I should be able to just do it. But what I didn't appreciate was it's a process and it's a journey, and I need to enjoy it. And I wish I can go back to my younger version of myself in my 30s and say, listen, it's a process. Just because you set the intention in the morning, it does not mean by the evening you are going to be able to achieve it. So and I didn't journal. I never had time, but I never felt I had time. I just read a lot of self-help books that probably didn't even register something. Some of the things, it's you just want to read, but only with time something sink in. It's only really when you're ready for that information, you're on the same frequency of that information, that you're going to actually do something about it, or you align with it, right? And do you find there is a particular kind of how do you identify a person that's ready for this kind of work?
I think it's very, very individual. It's very much trying to, you've heard that expression, catch you before you fall, because I never did it until I'd got to a desperate state where my mental health was so poor. I'd gone to the doctors, I'd got a prescription, I'd hit literally below rock bottom, like suicidal thoughts, everything, you name it. And it's like literally trying to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's so blooming hard to do. And it's trying to catch people, almost like you said before, do it when you're in a good mood, do it when you're having a good day, because then when you have a bad day, you've got the tools there already to do it. And it's catching people at certain points where it's just that moment in time where they pick up that pen and they go, I want to, even if it's like, I'm going to write you a letter, don't send the letter, but I'm going to write you a letter. I'm going to write how you feel. I did it the other day. I'm going to write exactly how I'm feeling in that letter, and I'm not going to spare the horses. It's all coming out. And then you can move on. Then you can move on the next, to the next day and the next hour and the next minute and whatever. And when I was teaching in the school the other day, they've missed so much education, and they're sitting there, and you can feel that they're all, not all, but they're quite stressed out, because they're like, well, how am I going to do? And I've missed so much, and what am I going to do? And I said to them, and I'd say to absolutely anybody, as long as you've done your best in that moment in time, in that day, nobody can ask for any more. Nobody, not yourself, not your partner, your family, your friends, your kids. Nobody can ask for any more. If you're doing your best, and you know you're doing your best, nobody can ask for anything more.
I know, and the thing is, we are where we are, and I know it's really like a typical kind of bit cliche to say, but everybody's pretty much in the same boat. And okay, some schools have stepped up and done many things, but at the end of the day, generally across the country, everybody is in the same boat. And we're really focusing on what we haven't had rather than what we have had. The fact that the schools still did open to help key worker children, the fact that some schools were able to offer online school, offer devices to children that were really unable to have access to them. There's so much to be able to say great things about, rather than I was really heavily focusing on what we didn't have, and how this is actually, I read something about how, bottom line, how it's going to affect our economy and financially, how that equates to in 10 years time and 20 years time, how it's going to affect our bottom line of the economy of the UK. And I just thought, I cannot believe, I mean, I know they're supposed to have to do that, but what message are we drilling home again to our younger population, that really, are they just numbers on a spreadsheet for our economy?
Isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, maybe they are, but do we need to put it quite like that?
Exactly.
And we're not teaching, again, we're not teaching that the thing of how focusing on the grit, the things that we have been able to do, the great things that have come out of it, or the fact that we had schools open and do what they could do to make and go bend over backwards to support children in this really difficult time. So it's great that you've been able to do some work with schools and help children write, think about creative writing in a different sense, instead of writing stories, but actually really, because it's really hard to get children to do this. I try and get my son to do it, and he's not always very willing to just write a diary, and then it's very, we did this, we did that. No, try and access a bit more inside. So it's fantastic you've been encouraging and doing this, and I really hope more schools consider that kind of way of teaching children to be able to release things for themselves.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. My daughter's just bought a journal which helps with the structure and asking questions, and help her with her mental health and trying to get things out of herself, because she finds sometimes it a bit tricky just to dump on her own. So actually having questions helps her think about how to release information from that's preoccupying her mind. So it's really good. So thank you for sharing those things and how we can utilize writing and journaling and using the art of really writing. I have a couple of questions to ask you, and they are more about you, really, just to change up the conversation a little bit. And you've already spoke about the things that will help, what brought you to this work. But what would you say inspires you most days?
Helping other people. And I know everybody says that, or most people say that you speak to, I just want to help other people. But there's a certain satisfaction, and I've had some good, not just good, excellent reviews from my book. And the one that really sticks with me is, again, a young girl, a 15-year-old girl. She was lent the book, and she'd gone from not thinking she was going to be here in 6 months and really being there's no point, down on it, and just completely not interested in doing anything for a future, to now having written a 5-year plan, planned a college, planned her last year of school, planned all her exams and all, and what she's going to do. And I just read the messages, and I was just like, that is what it's all about for me. That is what it's all about for me. And people they've been posting or sending me messages, where's the second book? Where's the second book? And I'm like, okay, so I better write the second book then, hadn't I? And somebody said to me the other day, you seem quite surprised. And I said, well, I am really. That was the intention behind the book, was for first and foremost to help me, but then to help other people. And the comments that have come out of it was about improving your self-worth, your confidence, and understanding other people, and helping friends, and how people interact together and things like that. But when somebody says that they've seen such a drastic change in just one person, that to me was just so incredible.
Wow, that is very
for me. That was just I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to write the second book. That was just that was it for me.
And what would you what things in your life have influenced you
Oh. I suppose it's been my experiences, and I've often sat there and thought, why are you doing this to me again, and what was that for? And you know, angels, universe, whatever, what did you do that for? And I'm like shouting. I'm like, why? And then I look at what I've done in lockdown, even just like producing the book. I went to work abroad, and I never ever thought I would do that. I thought I'd be in the corporate world forever, and you know, I'd be doing sales role or admin or whatever, and then to suddenly find myself like basically out of a job, and like, okay, so you've got to reinvent yourself. You haven't got a choice. You've got to do it now. And putting pen to paper in whatever way, shape or form is just so powerful. And when you can get such a powerful message out there, you know it's going to get to people that need it eventually. You know it is.
So what's the influence? The things you've done, your life experiences?
The life experiences. I think more so the bad things, as strange as it sounds, and the bad things and the relationships and the experiences with my mental health, my hysterectomy. As you know, I've got no children, so having a hysterectomy without having children was a hard decision to make. And it's all of those things combined that I look back now and I think at the time I thought they were bad, but actually they weren't, because they made me stronger. They made me the person that I am today. You know, your past has a massive bearing on the way you are today and the things, your boundaries that you'll set. And I think it all comes from, you know, everyday individual things. Is there a particularly strong influence? There's probably quite a lot of friends, I would say, but I don't. Somebody said to me once that you want to be an influencer. I said I don't want to be an influencer, because I think that in itself says something in the back of your head. Well, are they a good influence or a bad influence? You know, it's like a glass of wine. Is it a good influence or a bad influence? Well, too many of them are bad, but one is not necessarily that, you know what I mean? So it's getting that balance right. So you look at well, actually, no, it's not an influence. It's the experiences that I've lived, both good and bad, that have kind of come together to help me do what I do now, I think, is probably.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they've influenced you. They've directed you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good expression. Yeah, it's a good word. Yeah.
And would you say your writing is part of your self-love practice to help your mental health?
Very much so.
You did pause. So what other things do you do to practice self-discipline, self-love?
Writing is a lot of it, but walking. I used to swim a lot especially when I was abroad. I used to love going in the sea. And before I went away, I used to swim a lot. I haven't been since, with the pandemic and everything. But walking, I find that being out in nature really helps me connect. And I do walk every day, every morning. Sometimes I walk twice a day. It's rare, very rare now, but I miss it. And I've kept that practice up since the beginning of the pandemic. So I think, and plus the crystals, I use my crystals again. I took a few with me when I went abroad, but for a while they were in storage. When I came back, my friend was looking after them for me. So I've had them back now. So I use my crystals as well. So combined with quite a few things. And once things start to open up again, I shall start to look at doing Tai Chi again or swimming and things like that once things start to get open. But yeah, fresh air and exercise, crystals and writing. Okay.
Fantastic.
And swimming when we can.
Yeah, that's really good. And the crystals so powerful. I love crystals. I love crystals. So, and then that's another subject, which I'll probably have to bring you back to talk about, because there's so much. There's so much. And I think it's a lot of people don't understand it, and it's a very, almost very alien to some people. So I'd love to get you to come back and talk about
that'd be brilliant.
crystals. I'd love it. I think I would just learn so much, never mind everybody else.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for your time. I want to honour you for sharing so openly about how creative writing has really transformed your life, and how you've actually impacted so positively other people's lives. And so wonderful to hear that you're doing this work and are inspired by others keeping feeling the benefit of your efforts and your endeavours. It's amazing, isn't it? It's not just benefiting you, it's opening out to more people. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing how others can make a difference to their life by using this. Lisa, can you tell us how anybody interested in the work you do, your book, please tell us the name of your book and tell us how people can contact you.
The book is called Katie, A New Chapter, and it's available on Amazon in ebook and paperback, and it's available on Smashwords in ebook. My website is lisambbillingham.com, and I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Pinterest, Twitter, you name it. I feel like I'm everywhere. I'm not on TikTok. That's the only one I'm not on, which I'm told is very good. And I haven't got the brain space to do any more. Leave me alone. But the best way, and my email address is lisa@lisambbillingham.com if anybody wants to drop me an email. So for more information. But my website's got quite a lot of, it's got everything on there, all the services that I offer as well. So
that's great, and I'll put all those details in the notes that go with this podcast. So don't worry about that. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. And thank you for being here, and thank you, Lisa, once again. And
thank you.
I hope it's been of value to you guys listening. See you later, guys.